This is Foxboro's Fortress, your home for all the latest on the New England Revolution. Brought to you by Leading Lights LLC.
Hello, and welcome back everyone to Foxboro's Fortress, your home for all the latest on the New England Revolution. I'm Raphael Babchuk.
And I'm Cecil Kenny. Today, we'll break down the New England Revolution players and how they fared in their international games thus far, Saturday's MLS games, and we'll look to end it with what to expect in the New York Red Bull game this upcoming Saturday. Also, we'll talk about Caleb Porter as a coach in depth and his job security going forward.
Big thanks to our sponsor, Leading Lights LLC, for making this possible, who we'll talk about more later. For now, let's jump right in. Alright, let's go into our international breakdown.
All right, let's start with Al Hassan Yusuf, obviously our defensive midfielder from Nigeria. He started on the bench against Rwanda. He entered in the 77th. There's not a whole lot of info on the game. It wasn't really broadcasted anywhere that I saw. He fouled a guy in the 82nd minute, their left winger, put him in a somewhat dangerous chance, but it didn't come of anything. So other than that, nothing of note for him in a 2-0 win for Nigeria over Rwanda.
Next time I want to talk about Ganago, obviously left winger from Cameroon. He was at Eswatini. He started at the bench, came in the 83rd minute. He floated the ball in around the 86th. It was too far in front of him. He didn't really have too much of an impact in his limited play.
And then Mamadou Fofana, there's really not a lot on him. He was playing against the Comoros, and he didn't play at all. He sat on the bench all game. That's really all we have on the Revs and the international break. Obviously, we only got 3 guys called up, with Eli Fingold not being called up after originally being called up. Weird little situation there. We talked about that last week. So if you haven't already, please check that out. Let's move on to MLS news. Raph, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. First thing I want to talk about is the LA Galaxy played Minnesota. They had 2 late goals in the end to draw 2-2. So, firstly, I want to talk about that because, first of all, that was a pretty good game. I saw a little bit of it last week. I thought it was a pretty entertaining game. Obviously, LA Galaxy scored in the 90th minute to drop the game after initially Minnesota scored a pen in the 87th because they thought they'd clinched the game. It was a pretty good game. LA Galaxy is still searching for the kind of form. Obviously, they're formed to their MLS championship form. They're still winless. Along with your New England Revolution. So they still want to keep up on play a little better, obviously, as they are the reigning champs. One player in particular I want to talk about was Ramirez. He played very well during the game. He had a goal during the 26th for the LA Galaxy. He's their striker. I thought he played pretty well. He had a few nice opportunity. I felt he was really impacting the game, and obviously that showed with the goal.
Yeah. Also, Kelvin Yeboah, the Italian striker for Minnesota, 24, 5 matches, 4 goals. He had 2 last game. He had 1 being a pen. But very good player. He's had 2 men of the match games this season already, which is very impressive.
He obviously had 2 goals this game as well.
Yeah, and so I also want to talk about Minnesota's goalkeeper. Dane St. Clair is out on international duty, and so for the first time this season, they're starting Alex Smer, their backup keeper. He normally plays for their B team. He didn't do too bad. He didn't really do anything crazy, but he also didn't do anything poor. And so not a bad performance by him.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Vancouver. So Vancouver is no longer undefeated. They fell to Berhalter's Chicago Fire 3-1. On top of who scored in that game?
It was Rios was the only goal scorer for Vancouver. It ended 3-1. Chicago took the lead early with a goal in the first minute. And then after it was 1-1 after that Rios equalizer, Chicago scored in the 62nd minute and then finished it off in the 95th minute.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Kuipers, he's doing great. He's the Belgian striker. 5 games, 5 goals and 1 assist. He's doing phenomenally. He's had in this season. Other than the Columbus game, which was match 1 for them, he's had a goal or assist in every game. He's had 2 man of the match games against both DC and Dallas, and then has had goals in the last 2 games against Toronto and Vancouver. Vancouver's the big one. They were undefeated. and they are finally they're doing well, but following this,
Yeah,
it's not
a lapse in form, really.
It's not a phenomenal game. They're still doing well though. Philip Zinkernagel, he had a goal and assist this game. He had a really nice performance from the Danish man, right winger coming over from Club Brugge this year. He's doing quite well for himself.
Yeah, I want to talk about former U.S. head coach Greg Berhalter and how he's faring out with the Chicago Fire. So he's currently fifth in the East. 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. He's been all right with Chicago. He's obviously just beat Vancouver, who were undefeated. 3 straight wins for him. They started off not faring too well in the league, but they've improved. But obviously they started off with a 4-2 loss to Columbus. They ended up drawing to DC United, but now they have 3 straight wins going to their next game versus Montreal, which I do see them winning as well. So I could see Chicago Fire as kind of maybe an underdog team, kind of moving their way up in the East. They're playing really well. Greg Berhalter's his vision's what's going on out in the field, and is going really well. How do you think he's doing right now?
I think he's doing all right. Obviously not the biggest fan as a U.S. men's national team fan. He didn't have the greatest tenure with us. But 3 straight wins isn't really something you can argue with, especially against Dallas, and then playing Toronto, not a hugely talented side, but then also having a now 3-1 win over Vancouver is very impressive with them being undefeated prior to now.
They've also scored a lot of goals. I mean, they had 2 versus Columbus, another 2 versus DC United, 3 versus Dallas, 2 versus Toronto, another 3 versus Vancouver.
That's a lot more than the Revs, I'll say that much. We'll get to that later on. Going into the Red Bull match. I also want to talk about Charlotte dismantling former Revs coach Bruce Arena's San Jose 4-1. 4 former Revs started that game. Let's see if I can remember. I know it was Ian Harkes, Mark Anthony Kay, Romney, and then Nick Lima at fullback, and then I think Earl Edwards Jr. was on the bench. But not a
convincing performance, I would say.
No, not a good performance by San Jose in the slightest. Charlotte looked good though. They did have a red card from their center back in the 70-something minute, Andrew Privet, but Pep Yile is proven to be very good. They brought up their Israeli striker from their B team Crown Legacy, Idana Gurno. They brought him up. He had an assist. Wilfred Zaha, he didn't really do much this game, but he also had he didn't have any goals or assists this game, but he had a good game overall.
I mean, he's fun to watch, isn't he?
Oh yeah, and then
he's really fun to watch. First, look forward to watching him at the Revs.
Oh yeah. First MLS, I think it's first goal for this season at least. Brent Barranco, he had a good game. They just had a good game overall. And only 1 goal from San Jose being, I think it was a pen from Christian Arango. Yeah, pen in the 77th. The Revs did not have a good game, and as that being former Revs, the defense and Ian Harkes had a poor showing. Mark the DK, 6.5 FOMOP score. But yeah, just not a good performance by
Romney. I have to say, Romney, never liked him when he was at the Revs.
Yeah.
Pretty happy that he left, and he's obviously not doing his best at San Jose.
Yeah, he's not doing too well. Obviously, he had 2 performances. He had 2 good performances to start the year against both Salt Lake and Sporting KC, but then since then, his form has kind of fallen off. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Bruce Arena bounces back from this against against Seattle next week, I think.
It should be an interesting game to watch.
Oh yeah, 100%. Seattle's a very good team, and then San Jose, coming after this loss, they'll be empowered to do something.
Yeah, so I want to move on to talk about how Nashville, they beat had a very good performance against Montreal. They won 3-0 with a goal in the 56th minute by Muyul. Sorry if I butchered that. Goal in the 62nd minute from Bayer and a 67th minute from Perez. So that's kind of a 10 minutes right there where Nashville scored 3 goals. So they were in that. That's where they kind of sealed the game right over there. They had a very good performance. Obviously, Montreal didn't have one of my all-time faves, Giacomo Vrioni. Obviously, former Rev, left after last season. They didn't have him. Montreal is not looking their best.
No, not at all. Montreal sits bottom of the East. Obviously, the Revs didn't play this match week, but just not looking good. Bottom of the East. Just not something you can really take.
Yeah, they have to start playing better.
But Nashville, after that draw against the Revs, they had a phenomenal turn in form.
Which, to be honest, it is kind of embarrassing to kind of draw us now. We're kind of like the bottom barrel of the league.
And they have 10 points now. 3 wins, a draw, which was to the Revs, and a loss. That loss, who was that to? That was to Red Bull after us. But then, again, 3 straight matches where they've won. And their team is doing incredible. Someone to credit there, Hani Mukhtar and Sam Sturridge, both doing well.
I mean, how did we think they were going to start at the... We thought they were kind of like a mid-table team to start the season,
I was expecting lower. They did not look like a very promising team to me. But after these 3 games, they've really turned it around.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, when you talk about you want a good form, yes, the international break kind of hurts that, but obviously they play their game. They played their game on Saturday, and we obviously had to wait a week. So they played really well. I want to talk about one player in particular who played well against us. Sam Sturridge. He played really well. He's English, striker, 26 years old. He played very well when he played us. He was kind of unlucky to not get a goal. Ivic had a really good game that game, but he got an assist in this game. And he played really well. It's kind of, yes, he didn't get a goal, but he's a very good player on their team. Yeah. And he kind of takes defenders kind of are on him the entire game, which opens it up for other players on his team.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I would say the same for Hani Mukhtar, former MLS MVP. He's looked great this season. I do want to move on to talking about the East and just overall. Columbus had a surprise donut against NYCFC. 0-0, yep.
Yeah, so they had a surprise 0-0 draw. Obviously, Cincinnati and Atlanta had a draw, and then Orlando beat DC 4-1 very convincingly.
Yeah.
Looking at the East right now, we have Philadelphia in first, 4 wins, 1 loss. There's currently 0 unbeaten teams in the East. New England Revolution not last place in the East. How surprising is that?
That's pretty surprising, but not too surprising. Obviously, actually, there is an undefeated team, Inter Miami.
Oh yes, Inter Miami.
Yeah, they're still, and then Montreal and the Revs and Toronto. So the Canadian teams and the Revs are all win this. So that's and then the other Canadian teams doing very well. But then we already talked about them being Vancouver.
They are in the West, not in the East.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The other Canadian team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So only Inter Miami, who also had a bye this week. But not too surprising that the Revs aren't bottom of the East, given that we didn't have a game week this week. And
right, yeah, we still have a game in hand, but we're still obviously 8th place makes it like that playoff position to make it to the playoffs.
I don't know if I see that. We have 1 point right now, and 8th is 8 points.
It's kind of yes, the season just started, but I mean, if we have to improve our form. Imagine we had 2 straight years. What did we make the playoffs 3 years ago?
Something like that.
The
last time we played against played in the playoffs was against Philly, and guess who our starting keeper in that game was? Jacob Jackson. That was pretty dead. That was the year that we lost Petrovic, and then we had a revolving door goalkeeper. I could have started a goalkeeper for us, and probably would have done the same as these guys.
Yeah, but tell you what, Ivic has been playing better.
Oh yeah, 100%. This was the year before we got Ivic. But yeah. Surprised by the Cincy Atlanta draw. I would have expected at least probably another. I would have expected one of those teams to win. They are 2 very good teams in the East. Just not. I'm surprised that they got a draw. Evander had a brace in his 70 and 75th minute goals, and then Latte La had a 50-minute goal with Powell having an own goal that drew it in the 88th. So not the greatest from him. But sometimes own goals are, how we get goals.
Yeah. So what I do want to talk about is this next coming week, which we'll talk about more in our breakdown of what our game will be, our look ahead. But what I do want to talk about is this. Right now, yes, we have a game in hand, but we're 4 points off 12th, which is Atlanta. And this is a really big game. Because I think if we lose this game, that kind of sets us back to, I don't even think we're going to even be talking about making the playoffs.
We're already set back.
Right.
This is already looking bad.
But it's a very big week, and we have to bring a result.
Being over 2 matches away from the next place up is horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, god-awful.
Yeah.
Like,
very bad.
That's bad.
Yes, we still have a game that we haven't played, but we have to be playing better. All right, we will talk about this more in our look ahead later on in this episode. But right now, I want to give it up to our sponsor, Leading Lights LLC.
Unlock the power of your platform data with Leading Lights, experts in transforming raw numbers into compelling benchmarks. Leading Lights helps a variety of companies turn insights into engaging stories that drive growth. Elevate your brand with data-driven content that captivates your audience and sets you apart from the competition with Leading Lights. Visit their website at leadinglights.io to see how you can transform your platform data. Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Foxboro's Fortress. Again, I'm Cecil Kenny.
And I'm Raphael Babchuk.
Let's dive into a Red Bull match look ahead. So they're currently 2-2-1 with 2 draws, 2 wins, and 1 loss. They lost to Cincy on the opener, but since then they've been undefeated with a bounce-back win over Nashville, which was expected at the time, but since then Nashville's been doing better. Back-to-back draws against Atlanta and Orlando. Not too surprising, but also they probably should have gotten a win in one of those. And then they rebounded from those draws against a weak Toronto side this past Saturday. So they're a good team. They've got some players. And so let's talk about a few of them in our players to watch. Raph, you want to start us off?
Yeah. So first, I want to talk about Emil Forsberg, former RB Leipzig player. He already has 3 goals this season. He's playing very well. Obviously, he came from Europe, so he's having from one Red Bull to another. He's been playing really well this season. Obviously, 3 goals in 5 games. He played at Leipzig for a really long time, since 2014, and then he only just left them at the end of 2024 to join Red Bulls. But right now he's been playing really well. He's going to have a really big impact against us, and I think we have to shut him down specifically. I think Yusuf is going to be during that game. I think he's going to be kind of on Emil Forsberg during that game, trying to limit his productivity during that game.
Of course, if he's back from international break,
yeah.
Hopefully,
which that would be the hope, because he's very good defensively, and I hope he really comes back so he can be with Emil Forsberg. But aside from that, another player I want to talk about is Eric Choupo-Moting, who has 1 goal in 5 games. Obviously, former PSG player, known for that really bad miss. Former Bayern Munich player. He's had a pretty interesting career. Went from, he started in Mainz, and then he went to Schalke, which is 2 teams in the Bundesliga. Then he went to Stoke for a season, was at PSG for 2 seasons, Bayern Munich for a while, and then obviously he just recently joined New York Red Bulls. He's been playing all right this season, but he's really classed for playing in Europe for that long. So even though he hasn't been too good this season, we still have to be able to, because he can just have a spark right out of nowhere, so we have to play really well against him. I am confident in both our defenders, though.
I completely agree with that. I do want to talk about right midfielder Dennis Gengar. He's Norwegian. He was on international break this past week. What number did he wear? 22. 2 games, 1 goal. He reminds me a lot of Julian Fernandez from the NYCFC match.
That's a good shout.
He's a guy that I don't know all that well, but I expect to have a good game in the future, and he's poised for a big game playing for Red Bull.
Honestly, anyone playing the Revs is poised to have a good game.
Yeah,
don't you think?
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. I forgot about that part. 29 games, 3 goals across his career since 2024, February, joining Red Bull. I expect him to have a good game. He's been there for a bit, obviously, but just hasn't done all that much. But I expect him to have a good game. And then I also want to talk about their goalkeeper, Carlos Cornell. On FOMOB, they list him as Carlos Miguel. I don't know why. I think that's his middle name. Maybe. Last name. I'm not sure. He's played in 4 games. He has 2 clean sheets. He was on international break with Paraguay on the bench this past game.
He has a pretty good stat over here. I just want to send out 83% save percentage.
That's great.
Really good.
I'm not saying that he's still 28, and he's one of MLS's best goalkeepers. He's always so good against the Revs, and it's really unfortunate always, because then the Revs don't do well. Not like we're doing well now, but he's a very good keeper, and he's gonna have a good game. If he plays against us, obviously they played. If he doesn't play, it'll be AJ Mariucci in net. I think he's a draft pick. He might be an academy guy. But
Yeah, 25 years old, 6'3", not the best, but I mean he's as a backup he's okay.
yeah, that was his first game back from loan and his first start for Red Bull after going on loan to Finland at a team that I don't know how to pronounce their name. You can look it up on FOBOB, the app, to get all your football knowledge. I followed the Revs, the U.S. national team, and many other teams, and it gives you everything you really need to know.
Not a sponsor.
I wish. Again. Other headlines around this match. So, obviously, I mentioned Cornell and Gengar were both on international duty. Gengar plays Monday at 9 a.m., so right after this podcast will launch. And then Cornell is on international duty with Paraguay. When they won, was it 2-1 against Toronto? A sister from that he came off the bench. It was Carbello, number 20, center midfielder, who's 28 from Felipe Carbello, Uruguayan. He got a red card. Why is this always true? I don't really know. But time to come up with his replacement. This is really difficult for me, especially because I really don't know who to put here, because he's number 1 on the bench, so he doesn't start. And so if there's going to be anyone to replace him on the bench, it's going to be Davi Alexandra. Red Bull have a lot of injuries right now, and then the international call-ups make it a lot difficult. But I wouldn't be surprised if he is picked, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he's not picked. So be aware of that. And then other international call-ups for Red Bull is Omar Valencia, who got called up to Panama, and then they beat the U.S., which is not cool.
Not cool at all, actually. 94th minute winner.
Against Matt Turner. Not needed.
Yeah, Maurizio Pochettino. Is this what we're going to do at World Cup? We're hosting?
I really hope we do better soon. Against Canada, I don't think we'll play many of our starting guys. They also had Curtis Ofori. He doesn't play all that much. He's a defender. He got called up to Ghana's U20s team. Tanner Rosenbro, to a midfielder, called up to the U.S. U17s. And then same U.S. 17s is goalkeeper Aiden Stokes, who turned down a call-up to England's youth teams.
So, yeah, I want to talk about score predictions.
All right, let's do it.
What are we thinking for this game?
I don't think we can score goals. It's kind of been proven. They can score goals. We can't score goals.
Well, to be fair, we did score last game.
That
it was
count.
An own goal. It did not count.
Guys, it counts in the game, but it doesn't count for us scoring goals. I'm gonna say,
because I mean, you look at our season, you're like, oh, they scored a goal. Who scored? You're gonna scroll, and you're gonna find no Revs players.
You're gonna find nothing.
Nothing.
So I'm gonna say 2 or 3-0 to Red Bull.
2 or 3-0.
Not that Ivic is gonna have a bad game, just that Red Bull is very good. We are not very good. And they know how to score goals, and we haven't really had to face teams that are scoring a lot, like other than Philadelphia. We haven't faced teams that have scored goals. Columbus with that 0-0 draw to NYCFC. Even though they beat us, they haven't scored all that much. So I'm going to say at least 2-0, maybe 3-0, but no
goal
more
scorers?
than that.
Goal scorers?
That's a good question. I'm going to say your prediction, Choupo-Moting is going to score at least 1, and then Forsberg is going to score 1. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Wilkman Carmona scores. He's a guy we didn't talk about, but he's a very good player. He's a very good player. I'm confused on why I left him out. Beware of him. He's a very good player.
Yeah, Venezuelan, 22 years old, 5'6". Where's it? Number 19, left-footed. He's a very good player. He could have a big impact on the game.
Yeah, watch out for him. And also Alexander Hack, their center back. Brought him over from the Saudi League after a year there. He used to play for Mainz. Played how many games for Mainz? 145 for Mainz. And then now he's over at Red Bull. So he's a guy who's been doing well at defender, but watch out for him. Goal scorers, though, Choupo-Moting, Forsberg, and then Carmona for me.
All right, 3-0. Negative Nancy over here. Are you ready for this? I'm going to be super positive. 1-1 draw.
Who scores for the Revs?
Who scores for the Revs? 74th minute. set piece from Carlos Hill. It's kind of bounced around, and then it's hit at the edge of the box from someone who I don't think has been really good. Jackson Ewell.
Jackson Ewell's going to
He's going to hit it. It's going to come right to him. He's going to hit it. It's going to be on the bottom right corner. We'll already be losing at that point because they're going to score at the 34th minute from an Emil Forsberg. He's going to cut inside after a break, and he's going to score, slot it into that right-hand side. But I'm going for a 1-1 draw.
That would be phenomenal for the Revs just because we get to score a goal. And sure, we don't win, but at least we score a goal, you know what I mean? And then if I'm going to choose my goal-scoring times, I'm not going to say where because I don't watch Red Bull. I don't know where they're going to place this stuff. But I'll say the first goal is scored by Emil Forsberg. I'm going to say 32nd minute.
Yeah, we said around the same time for an Emil Forsberg goal.
Yeah. My second goal is going to be from Wilkman Carmona in the 68th. And then Choupo-Moting is going to score in, I think, the 81st.
Just to seal the game.
Yeah, he'll seal the game then. And then the Revs.
So who do you think your standouts are going to be for the game, for the Revs side?
For the Revs? That's a good question. I think even if we do lose by a chunk, I think Yusuf's going to stand out if he does play. And then our two center backs, especially Ceballos, is going to do well. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Ganago has a very good game this game. Even if he doesn't score, I'd like to see him have a good game.
Yeah, for me, I think my standout, if the scoreline's how I predicted, for us, I think would still be Jackson Ewell because he would be the goal scorer as I predicted. So really hope this comes true. But next up, we're going to talk about Caleb Porter and his uncertain future here in New England.
Yeah, so let's talk on that. Caleb Porter hasn't had the greatest time with your New England Revolution. He's obviously done well in previous years with
Portland and Columbus,
winning MLS Cups there.
When you look at his resume, I mean, he's a great MLS coach.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He's been a very good MLS coach. But currently with the Revs, he has averaged 1 point. I think it's 0.9, actually, and they're just rounding. With his two previous coaching gigs, he averaged at least 1.4 points. That was per match. And then he's won a bunch. He won MLS Cup, like we mentioned, with Portland in 2015. And then 2020, he won MLS Cup with Columbus, along with the Mobile Mini Sun Cup.
That's an interesting trophy. That's top on your resume.
That's an interesting trophy. And the Campeones Cup, 2021, and the Carolina Challenge Cup. I think that's another preseason. I think those three are preseason.
Yeah, but I mean, he comes over here to New England. He has a great resume. And then last season, we did not play well at all.
No.
At all. And then this season, our players have still yet to score a goal. So, I mean, when we want to seriously start talking about what's going to happen with him as our manager, because if we go in and lose again versus Red Bull this Saturday, there's going to be a problem. And I think that's the opportunity right now where we fire him.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Something I do want to talk about is the Bruce situation. We don't want another one of that. I'm not going to go in depth on that. If you want to hear about that, please leave us a comment. Along with any other hot takes you have or stuff you want us to talk about regarding the Revolution or MLS, leave a comment on either YouTube or Spotify, or email us at nepodcastingnet@gmail.com. My inbox is always open, and so if you do have something you want us to talk about, feel free to message us.
We'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, well, that's going to do it. If you like this, follow us on Spotify and YouTube, which will be linked to our Twitter post at nepodcastingnet. And I want to thank Leading Lights LLC for sponsoring this again. Our next episode should drop Monday. Again, if you have any hot takes or things you want us to talk about, you can find what you want us to talk about. You can
email us or comment. Obviously, hopefully next episode we'll be talking about a win, but that's not a really good percent right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next Monday. Thank you.